International trade shows have cured a lot of these problems because importers from every single country go to these international trade shows and they say, oh, Caputo's in 130 countries now. Chow's in 70.
But so this is all kind of new, though.
Yeah, this is all in the last, probably 15 years.
I mean, but 10 years ago, I mean, the expo and these international trade shows, you wouldn't be able to recognize them almost compared to what they are today.
I'll tell you my little expo story.
Yeah.
Because you asked me, like, well, did you ever sell the flour to anybody else? Or why didn't you? Or how did you? What happened? So one year I realized, and it was around 2002, 3, 4. So let's call it, we're 6 years, 7 years into importing the flour, and we're having very, very moderate success. Okay, it's not easy. It's hard. We're getting very few customers.
Right.
And like I said, in the beginning, we didn't understand it. As we kind of learned a little more about it, and we just started promoting it, and like, it's very different flour. You use it in a different way. You make the dough a little differently, and you could get the benefits from it. Certainly, if you make fresh pasta, man, nothing like it.
Right.
And if you want to make, high heat pizza, it's amazing. If you want to make focaccia, we have a recipe. But like the places that we're doing that, were quite honestly right below the fine dining segment. They weren't the pizza segment. They were the people that had really expensive restaurants that wanted to do like these kind of gourmet bar pies or stuff like that.
Sure.
And that was our customer base for this stuff. And it was kind of right before Neapolitan developed. So I decided with Anthimo we were going to take a booth at the Pizza Expo. And now it's early 2000s, and we get a
2000 what? We need this for the record. We need this for the books that are being.
I'm gonna call it 2002.
Okay, let's call it
19 years ago. Okay,
all right.
Because it probably was right about then. It was after 9/11. It was probably 02.
Right.
So we decided we're going to do a booth at the Pizza Expo. We got, and I mean this very humbly because it was a different time, and the expo was different than what it's become.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah, it's evolved, it's changed over time, and it's a great place for bringing the pizza community together. So we got an oven from wood at the time. Woodstone was probably one of the only people making stone deck high heat ovens fired by gas, because obviously gas, you had to use gas in it inside the convention center.
Yeah, it was Woodstone, or you would hire. There was guys that were running around New York building ovens. Yeah, they were building them.
So we're going to go to the convention center. So I called Woodstone and I said, "Would you I'm getting a tiny booth. Would you put an oven in it? I'm bringing two old guys from Italy who are pizza guys that are coming with Anthimo."
Who were those two guys? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was a guy named Gennaro Cervone and Antonio Storita. There were these two guys, and they're both like
Dontsterita, that guy, right?
Don Antonio.
Yeah,
they were Storita. They were both like well-known guys in those alleyways in the center of Naples, who had places that were in their families for a long time, and they were just solid old pizza makers. They were just great at what they did. So there's this oven, and the guy from Woodstone is there, and we had this tiny little booth, and they're making the dough by hand in the booth, whatever, and the oven gets dropped there, and the two of them go walking around the oven. They're looking at it inside, outside, and they say to me right in front of the guy, but they say to me in Italian, "This isn't going to work."
I saw that one coming. Okay.
Yeah. So the guy from Woodstone very proudly looks at me. He's like, "What did they say? What did they say?" And I said, "They said everything's gonna be fine." I told them, "Look, we're in Las Vegas in a convention center. This is the best we can do. You guys are Italians. You've done nothing but solve problems your whole life because I know where you live.
Yeah,
make it work." The product they made was so amazing that for the entire expo, people were at a line at our booth, because at the time there was not a lot of great food there.
No.
And people were having fun in Vegas. They weren't putting a lot of attention to what they were doing.
Yeah, a lot of people were just getting impingement ovens and throwing frozen products through and
buy my frozen peppers, or here's my frozen pizza crust, or whatever.
Yeah.
And this was like Neapolitan, soft, amazing, incredible, just fresh cheese, tomato, the dough's just like amazing.
Right.
And people would take a bite and start walking away, and they'd turn around, and you could see in their mind, they just had this holy moly moment. And so for the 2-3 days of the show, the line at the booth was crazy. Nobody wanted to buy anything because they didn't know how to do it. And I had more than one guy, restaurateur, come and say, in this little convention center, you're making a product 8 times better than what I do in my restaurant. And I've been doing it for 30 years. But I don't understand this. I can't do this. It's too foreign. It's too strange. Guess what we did? Went back the next year. Went back the next year. Went back the next year. And then someone said, I'm opening up a Neapolitan pizzeria. This is too good. People
Who's that?
It was whoever it was. It was John from Spaccanapoli.
Right.
It was well, for the first guy, it was, really, to me, it was Anthonymongeri downtown. Now, Anthonymongeri didn't do it because he went to Expo. He did it because it was in his blood, because
he was going to Napoli.
His roots to Napoli.
So let me real quick. I'd love to. So when Anthony opened, right? It was, I want to say it was before like Giulio and Roberto came onto the scene, like with real, Neapolitan.
Because Anthony was in.
He was in the East Village, and I was.
Well, no, he was in Point Pleasant.
Well, he was in Point Pleasant first, and then he did the bread thing, and then he did the Point Pleasant thing.
Doing pizza.
But nobody got it. That ended real quick.
They didn't understand.
They didn't understand it. The East Village was the first one where people got it.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had
a year before when he was doing that. Roberto Capruscia was in Pittsburgh.
Right.
He was there in early 2000s.
Yes.
He was doing his Neapolitan there.
Right.
Anthony was doing it in New York. Well, and it was when this kind of started. People started
well, I had started working at Cacio. No. I had started working at Numero Vendotto. All right. Oh. That guy, Sal Olivella, and I was working with his brother. Sal had to go to Dallas to open up a place in Dallas. I think that was called Olivella's, and they opened up a bunch of locations. And at that time, this was like, there were all these wood-fired places open, but none of them were like really what I know today, like to be like, this authentic Neapolitan pizza. It was guys, they were usually from the other side, but like, Giusto was Sicilian, and, he had another Sicilian buddy who was making pizza. Whenever they would open, they would bring in Caputo flour, but then they would like quickly, within 6 months to a year, they'd be switched to like just a General Mills, like American flour. And they were just like, they had no idea what they were doing. There was no percentages. There was no like real method. It was exactly the same as, walking into a New York style pizzeria that I grew up doing it in. And, okay, fill the, the kind of thing up to here.
This much water.
Yeah, and you put this much yeast, and we're going to put the salt, and we're going to mix. Most of them, a lot of them were mixing in, they would buy spiral mixers, and then the pizza guys that would look at the spiral mixer and say like, no, this isn't going to work. Like, the reason why we're not getting great pizza is because of the spiral mixer. Buy a Hobart, and then they would go buy Hobarts. And meanwhile, I'll never, and then I worked at a lot of these places. I learned it. I think I want to say, I might be wrong about this. No, the first place was Il Fornetto that had like a wood stone oven. Then I went to Numero Vendotto, and I learned the pizza metro and, the wood fire the info de legna that they were doing over there. Then I went to Cacio e Vino in the East Village, which was down the street from Anthonymongeri's place. And I'm working for Giusto over there, and I'm making pizza. And I went in for the job. They put an ad on American Orgy in the classifieds. For those that don't know, American Orgy, is this Italian newspaper that you go in the classifieds if you need a pizza job, or you need to find like an Alfa Romeo for sale, or you need like a tailor that doesn't speak English and only speaks Italian, or like something like this. They have everything in the American Orgy classifieds. And I went in, and Giusto was just like, did the interview. I made a couple pies, and he's like, okay, we want to hire you. We want to, have you work these hours. It's $16 an hour. Okay. And I was like, yeah, sure. Is it, back then everybody paid cash. And I was like, yeah, is it cash? And they're like, yeah, we can pay cash. No problem. And I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. When do you want me to start? And I like, walked it, I kept my cool as much as I can, and I went because back then,
you never made $16
bro,
an hour.
You were lucky to get $10 a fucking hour back then, and I fucking walked out of the place, and I was just like, yeah, let's go. go, going crazy. And, obviously I was like probably like 21 years old at the time. And I like went out to a local East Village bar and got wasted. But, Justo, after working there for a few months, me and Justo, we were having a glass of wine, and he was just like, Nino, what's so crazy? You got, our place and all these other places that are, I'm from Italy, I'm from Italia, but this kid down the street that looks like you with tattoos everywhere, that, he's from New Jersey, I think. Everybody wants to go to him from Italia for the pizza. He's got like the best pizza. Is like this kid from New Jersey, and I'll never forget like this guy from the other side like saying that. You know what I'm saying about Anthony? And Anthony was, obviously he's still amazing. He's got his place in Atlantic Highlands. Now in New Jersey.
And they're reopening the one in New York soon.
And they're reopening the one in the Lower East Side as well. But, when he opened in the East Village, white pie, marinara, margarita, that's it. 4 days a week, 5 p.m. till the dough ran out, which it did by 7, 8 o'clock every fucking day. And, years later, I got to, I think I went in there looking for a job, and they were just like, no, we're okay. Like, you couldn't even get to Anthony. And I wasn't very familiar with, you know what I'm saying, like who he was. Back then, it wasn't like I was picking up New York magazines and Time Out and reading any of these articles. And you didn't have the internet in your pocket where you could quickly, do a search really quick. You kind of had to be in the know.
But people, Anthony, we said he went to Napoli. It was something he was dialed into.
Well, he grew up going there to summers, and he learned how to do it there.
But other people didn't.
No.
Other people came to Las Vegas.
Sure.
They saw what was going on there. They were introduced to a new style. They were introduced to new concepts. They were introduced to new techniques. And they decided to go out and take a gamble and open locations and do Neapolitan by high heat wood burning ovens and get the ingredients and then train their guys. And like this whole Neapolitan revolution started in the pizza business for a while. Probably I would say like from 2005 to probably like maybe even 2015. Like a 10-year run of like tons of Neapolitan opening.
Well, when did
let's not think about New York, because it had to get from here to Hawaii. Because it did. It went across the entire country. Then what happened 6-7 years ago was, as this became, as people just were sharing more, you've always been one like very open with no secrets. And that was not a traditional pizza guy role. The traditional pizza guy was like, I don't tell you my secrets.
Right.
And you're like, dude, flour, water, salt, and yeast. I mean, come on. So as the Neapolitan was like opening up people's eyes to just high quality ingredients, the right equipment and technique, that kind of spurred in artisan. Right. I don't want to do Neapolitan, but I want to do pizza like in the best way I can. And maybe I like it like this. I want it a little crunchier, or I want it in a pan, or I want it, however I want it. And that concept to me is where really things moved faster, because now pizza has all these different forms, and it can be, and you can play with it and tweak and try to keep pushing the boundaries, just like you have it. Push the boundaries in every item, in every style.
I mean, I think you could almost trace it to when like when it really started to take off, it started to move. Was when like Giulio and Roberto like started doing it, because I mean, it almost coincide with like the VPN or the APN starting to do courses and give out certification. Like, don't those two things kind of almost line up more or less?
To me, that's part of like the whole Neapolitan spread, the classic Neapolitan, because you're talking about organizations that certify Neapolitan restaurants and pizza makers.
Yeah. Which made it possible for, it's like, okay, we're going to go do this course. Yeah. We're going to open up this restaurant and, we're going to have the tools that we need in order to. succeed.
Right. And what flowed out of that is now you have people that want to do classic Neapolitan because they love it, because the product's amazing. It's, a 2-minute pizza. I just like that. It's what I'm into. I dig it. I want to open a restaurant. And you have people who say, I don't want to do Neapolitan, but I want to make the best pizza I can possibly make.
Sure.
And think about like when you won the world championship. What did you do? You made your Nino pizza, but you pushed the boundaries. You use pre-ferment for your dough. You use techniques that the standard pizza maker wasn't using.
Yeah.
Okay. And that to me is still a function of the maybe the artisan nature that came back into pizza, where it's not just a fast food.
No.
And that's to me the difference. It's moving from fast food to high quality food.
I was watching I was watching a few interviews recently with what's his name? Massimo Bartora, the Michelin star chef from, I believe I'm saying his name right. I'm sorry, Massimo, if I'm not.
You are. Massimo Bartora.
Bartora from Modena. And, he was talking about, like, how he started in his restaurant in Modena and, his whole history. It was like a little, thing about where he started and where he came from. And, he was saying, because he came to New York, he worked for these Michelin star guys. He met his wife here. He moved back to Modena. And they opened up this thing that, like, people didn't really understand. And, he was talking a lot about, like, some of the things. Sometimes these guys, and I think this guy's a genius. Sometimes the way they talk, it bothers me a little bit because it's a little bit too artsy. It's like, well, the blah 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 blah, and it is poetic and it is amazing, but I'm like, all right, get to the point. What are you trying to really say? But one of the things that resonated with me was he was like, we have these amazing things and we have these techniques and they're rooted in tradition, but things are always going to evolve. No matter what you do, no matter what you think, they have to evolve. All right, and they're going to do it one way or another. And I mean, especially since Instagram and Facebook have become, I have all these, Facebook friends in Italy that do incredible things. And, you look at pages like Napoli food porn and this and that, and you're seeing these videos of these guys who are like, they're almost trying to recreate American breakfasts or like American sandwiches, but they're doing it with these amazing ingredients that they have access to in Italy. And it turns out to be like, once you see the finished product, it's something that we don't have in America, and it's amazing because it's like they're looking at it. They've never been here. You know what I mean? They've never come to America and been like, okay, I'm going to go work at an American burger shop or a diner or a classic American sandwich shop. They're going on the web and they're looking at videos and saying, okay, that looks like prova. That looks like this. Right. That looks like that. And then they're taking it back and they're doing it. And it's now considered like, it's an Italian thing, they're saying. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is or it's an Italian from America that they're doing. So I think no matter what you do, it's always evolving.
It's a beauty of how small the world is now.
Yeah, it's very small now. Yeah. And there's going to be guys, I mean, I'm seeing Francesco Martucci using conveyor impingement ovens for his new project. Have you seen this?
No, I have not seen that.
Bro, Francesco Martucci from Caserta, okay, has a new product that I think it's a new place. I think it's tied to a place that his brother, I want to say his brother's name's Salvo. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, brother. But yeah, they're doing this pizza that I think they're like steaming and then throwing through a conveyor belt oven.
I did not hear about that.
Yes,
no. I know his place, and actually the brother uses they're right down the street from our buffalo mozzarella farm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think, I mean, the tradition and the techniques and everything like that, they're very, very, very important. I remember when I was really, really against the Neapolitan slap. I used to be very against it. I used to be a big proponent of like, okay, this Caputo Cup or this Neapolitan STG competition you're doing at the Pizza Expo, it's full of crap because you're judging people based on how they stretch a pizza. It's not a close competition. It's an open one. Now, because of, really because of the Caputo Familia and the guys that I've got to talk to and really have nuanced conversation with and in-depth things, it kind of like figured things out in a way that like, my mind could understand because